The alien warship, the Ravager of Suns, hung like a death sentence in the void, a ghost haunting the fractured moon of Telmaris. It was a predator that had devoured entire fleets, a monster whose shadow sent ripples of fear across the galaxy. Allied worlds were in a state of panic, their populations scrambling to evacuate, knowing that once the Ravager fired its final purge, there would be nothing left but dust and echoes. Hope was a currency they could no longer afford. Then, a flicker, a tear in the fabric of space, and a single human dropship, ridiculously small and utterly alone, materialized from hyperspace. It was a gnat, challenging a leviathan. On board stood Captain Mira Harlow, Earth's most notorious shock officer. They called her a Deathworlder, a title she'd earned by charging headfirst into battles that had consumed legions. She was the last resort, the Hail Mary pass when all other plays had failed. Inside the opulent bridge of the Ravager, the alien commander watched the lone ship appear on his scanner. Contemptuous laughter echoed through the chamber, a sound like grinding metal. "One human," he hissed, his voice dripping with condescension. "One insignificant creature against the might of the Ravager of Suns." He made a dismissive gesture to his weapons officer. "End her. Let it be a lesson to a pathetic species." Instantly, 1,000 plasma cannons, each capable of glassing a city, swiveled and locked onto Mira's tiny dropship. The energy signatures spiked, painting her vessel as a pinprick of light about to be extinguished by a tidal wave of fire. But inside her cockpit, Mira wasn't afraid. She was observing. She watched the cannons converge, their glowing muzzles all pointing directly at her. A slow, dangerous smile spread across her face. "Good," she said, her voice calm and steady. "Now I know where to aim." Before the alien gunners could even press their triggers, the dropship's airlock blasted open. Mira Harlow, clad in a sleek, jet-boosted exosuit, launched herself into the unforgiving vacuum of space. She didn't eject. She became the projectile. She moved like a missile with a soul, a silver streak of vengeance cutting through the darkness. The cannons fired. A storm of brilliant, searing plasma erupted, 1,000 suns being born and dying in an instant. The space where her ship had been was vaporized, but Mira was already gone. She spiraled and weaved between the incandescent beams, a dancer in a field of lightning. The aliens watched in stunned disbelief as this single figure defied their overwhelming firepower. She closed the distance to the warship's hull with impossible speed, her exocet's thrusters flaring. With a final, powerful burst, she slammed into one of the massive plasma turrets. Her fist, augmented by kinetic amplifiers, connected with a soundless, catastrophic crunch. The turret shattered, its internal power source detonating in a contained, violent explosion. Mira used the force of that blast to propel herself further, a calculated ricochet toward her next target. Inside the Ravager, the calm superiority shattered. Alarms, blooded red lights strobed, and frantic voices shouted over the comms. "She's on the hull. A single infantry unit is on the hull. She's breaching the armor stopper." The ship's automated defenses came alive, spewing flak and laser fire, but it was like trying to shoot a bullet with another bullet. Mira was a blur of motion, a force of nature that refused to be stopped. She reached a maintenance panel, tore it open with her bare augmented hands, and slipped inside the warship's superstructure. She dropped down, landing with a heavy thud in the core corridor, a central artery of the massive ship. The air hummed with the energy of the nearby engine. Immediately, the corridor flooded with alien soldiers from both ends. They were hulking, insectoid creatures, their carapaces gleaming under the emergency lights. They raised their plasma rifles, claws extended, screeching war cries that echoed down the metal hallway. Trapped, outnumbered, surrounded. For anyone else, it would be the end. For Mira, it was the beginning. She cracked her knuckles, the sound sharp and clear in the tense silence. "Finally," she whispered, "a predator ready to feast." What followed wasn't a fight. It was a whirlwind of pure, unadulterated chaos. She was a hurricane in a hallway. She dodged a volley of plasma bolts, the searing heat washing over her as she slid under the beams. She met the first soldier's charge head-on, her fist shattering his armored chest plate. She grabbed another by the head and slammed him into the wall with enough force to leave a dent. Two more charged from behind. She spun, caught them both, and with a grunt of raw effort, hurled them into a nearby gravity column, where they were instantly crushed. She snatched a plasma rifle from a falling soldier and used it as a club, smashing through helmets and armor until the weapon itself buckled and melted in her grip from the sheer force of her blows. The ship's own AI, a cold and logical entity, began to scream warnings through the internal speakers. Its synthetic voice, laced with something akin to panic. Warning. Unidentified biological entity causing catastrophic damage in Sector Gamma. All security units converge. Containment has failed. Containment has failed. Mira ignored it all, her focus absolute. She was a guided missile, and her target was the heart of the beast. She carved a path of destruction straight toward the engine room. Doors were torn from their hinges. Guards were thrown aside like dolls, and the ship itself seemed to groan in agony under her relentless assault. Then she saw it. She burst through a final set of blast doors and stood before the Ravager's fusion core. It was a magnificent, terrifying sight. A massive, glowing sphere of captured starlight, pulsing with unimaginable power. It was the heart of the warship, the source of its apocalyptic strength. A deep voice echoed from behind her, cutting through the hum of the core. "You cannot destroy us, human." Mira turned. Standing there was the alien commander. He was immense, towering over her, encased in ornate, ceremonial armor that crackled with energy. In his hand, he held a blade made of burning, solidified plasma. "We have ended empires," he boomed, his voice full of the weight of 1,000 conquered worlds. "You are just one." Mira was bruised, her suit was sparking, and a trickle of blood ran from a cut on her forehead, but she was still smiling that same dangerous smile. "Yeah," she said, her voice raspy but defiant. Humans hit back harder. The commander didn't waste another word. He struck, moving with a speed that defied his size. The energy blade sliced through the air, a blur of fire aimed at her neck. Mira raised her arm, her suit's reinforced shield deflecting the blow with a shower of sparks. The impact sent a shudder through her entire body, but she held her ground. In that same instant, she countered with a punch, driving her fist directly into the commander's helmet. The crystalline faceplate cracked, revealing the shocked, enraged eyes beneath. Before he could recover, Mira made her final move. She activated her suit's main boosters at full power. With a roar of contained thrust, she tackled the commander, wrapping her arms around his armored torso. They became a single, hurtling mass of fury and steel, flying straight toward the glowing fusion sphere. The impact was cataclysmic. The commander's body, followed by Mira's, plunged into the core. The delicate balance of the fusion reaction was shattered. A wave of pure energy erupted outwards, and the entire sphere began to destabilize. The Ravager began to die. It screamed, not with alarms, but with the sound of a giant tearing itself apart. Explosions ripped through the corridors, and the very structure of the ship began to collapse. Fire and plasma chased Mira as she sprinted back the way she came. She was a blur, leaping over chasms that opened in the floor, dodging falling debris. She reached the hull breach she'd created and, without a moment's hesitation, dove back out into the cold silence of space. Just as she cleared the ship, the Ravager of Suns detonated behind her. It didn't just explode, it became a star. A brilliant, silent blast of light and energy expanded, so bright it outshone the distant sun. The shockwave hit her, a physical blow that sent her tumbling through the void, her suit systems screaming in protests. Darkness began to creep in at the edges of her vision when a tractor beam locked onto her, gentle but firm. A rescue cruiser, one that had been watching from a safe distance, had caught her mid-fall. Minutes later, she was hauled aboard their hangar bay. She climbed out of her battered exosuit, still smoldering from the shockwave's heat. A young officer stared at her, his face a mask of awe and total disbelief. "Captain," he stammered, unable to comprehend what he had just witnessed. How did you destroy the strongest warship ever built, all by yourself?" Mira Harlow leaned against the bulkhead, exhausted, bleeding, but grinning from ear to ear. "Simple," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "They fired at a human, so I fired back first. And on that day, the galaxy learned a new, terrifying truth. You don't pick a fight with humanity, because humans don't wait for permission to win. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss another tale from the far reaches of space. See you next time.